another instructional video to do that bar top repair. First thing you need to do is you've got to set up a workstation someplace where it's clean. This stuff is very messy. So on your workstation you need to have a bucket or two, you need to have stir sticks, you need to have your bar top A and B, you need to have your vinyl latex gloves, whatever, some denatured alcohol, and the heat gun for the bubbles. All right, so that's the first thing you got to do is set that up. Second of all, you got to make sure that the bar top is grease free, which you're going to have to wash it down with some either Dawn dishwashing detergent, denatured alcohol, whatever it takes. Make sure that there's no grease, no grime, no impurities on there. Clean it as best you can. Once you get that all cleaned up, then the best thing to do is to go down on the floor under the bar, around the edge, because when you put the bar top pour down, gravity is going to take over on the edges and it's going to drip. So make sure that the bar floor is covered around the entrance part. Make sure any equipment that's on the drip side of the bar, the drip rail side, make sure that that equipment is covered up with plastic and that. Take it right down to that stainless steel strip, and that's going to be the area that we're going to pour. Now, once you have that material sealed up, once everything is covered, then you take a sander, a light sandpaper, or if you have an orbital sander or vibrating sander, just a little sander with some medium grit paper, just to go over that surface that you're going to pour, just to what they call give it some tooth, so that the pour will have something to grip on. The edges, the surface, just a light sanding around the side. Then when you get that, again, a rag with some denatured alcohol, wipe that down. Once you've got that nice and clean, then we're ready to go to the next step, which is going to be the pouring. So we'll get to that in a second. All right, now this is the most important step of the process. So when you set your bucket, you'll notice that there's the graduations on there: 1 quart, 2 quart, 3 quart, 4 quart. The pour is a 50-50. So in other words, if you put 2 quarts of A, you got to put 2 quarts of B. All right. So I'm not going to mix the full amount. I think for what you're doing there for your bar, if you do 2 quarts of A and then finish it with 2 quarts. It must be exact. You can't go over, you can't go under. This is very, very important. So I'm going to stop. All right, we're ready for the mixing now. I've prepared the first part, A part, B part, whichever one you want to go with first of all. I've taken it up to the 2 quarts. For your situation, you shouldn't need any more than 4 quarts. That might even be too much, but better more than too little. So the first part goes right up to the 2, and then of course we'll pause for a second. I don't want to burn up film here, so we'll put the shooter. Okay, you can see now that we've taken it up from the 2 up to the 4. So there's the A part, B part. Now you'll see inside here, as we start mixing it, you see the 2 of them start combining together. The most important thing, the most important step right now is to mix this completely. You just have to get A and B to bind together. So you see how it goes kind of gray, there's stringy, there's cloudy inside there. You got to get that all out. You have to scrape the sides of the bucket. You got to scrape the stir stick so that there's no one more than the other. You got to scrape the bottom of the bucket, and you got to stir like crazy. And eventually this will come out and she'll be crystal clear.
Is there a suggested time limit for stirring with this stuff, Tom?
Not really. It depends on the temperature. If it's a cooler temperature, you'll stir longer. If it's a warmer temperature, it'll blend quicker. So we'll pause right now until I get this down and I'll show you.
2, 1.
All right, we're back now. You can see here that we've got it pretty much crystal clear. There's no cloudiness inside. There's lots of bubbles. but it's nice and clear. You make sure that you scrape these sides down so that you don't get no surprises when you reach the bottom of the bucket. So then you scrape this here down, nice and clean. Now you're ready to pour. Make sure you got your latex gloves on, and we'll take it over to the table. Now what we're doing here is, I'm doing a table. You'll be doing the bar, so basically the same thing. You're going to have a drip rail on the edge, and you're going to have to be careful, because as you put this and start smearing it around, it's going to pour into the drip rail. Now you want to make sure that if somebody's there, or if you're there by yourself, you got to scrape it out there. So you don't want to fill that drip rail up with bar top pour. So what we do is we pour a generous amount down, set the bucket aside, take your gloves, just start smoothing it out. You can feel, as you're doing this, you can feel how the surface becomes very, very slick. If you come across where you're dragging and you feel that your glove is sticking, there's not enough pour. You make sure that you spread the pour nice and evenly across. Now this stuff, when it kicks, as they call it, it turns to a liquid, and it will self-level. So don't worry about too much having this too thin or too thick or whatever. So just spread it around. Nice coat on there. In your situation there with the groove in the bar, you might want to make sure that you put some inside there to start off with. Fill it up, level it out, and then commence a smoothing process as you go. Nice and easy, just keep spreading it around, spread it down, push, spread. And as I say, watch that drip rail, because it's going to have a tendency to want to fill up, and you don't want that to happen. Pull it back up on the tabletop. And as you can see with the plastic on the floor, where this stuff starts to come over the edge in that there when it starts to liquefy. You'll see in the video, if Kenny can get up close, you'll see a lot of bubbles. You can see lots and lots and lots of bubbles sitting in that surface. There you go. Once you can put your glove across it and it's nice and slick, everything's nice and smooth. It also helps to have some offset lighting, ceiling lighting or the bar lighting, where you can look into the light, and you will see, when you look into the light on the table and that, you'll see if you missed anything, or you'll see the bubbles, etc., etc. Okay, now we'll pause and get back to the next step. All right, guys, we're going to do the bubble removal now. This is the last step. So as you can see, this is littered with little bubbles in that there. Put the heat gun, got the heat gun on high, and all you do is, if you can catch the light, you just keep it a couple of inches off the surface, and you just go slowly back and forth, and you can see all the little bubbles, they just disappear. All right, now that we've got the bubbles, just remember to stay slow, go back and forth, keep it a few inches off. If you can find a light somewhere that you can see the reflection in the table, that definitely will help you, because you think you got the bubbles, but you really don't if you can't see. You need to go slowly and keep it warm over and over. They'll pop. Once they pop, you'll see you get a nice glassy look to it. Another thing that you want to keep handy is a toothpick and a rag, so that if there's any dust or hair or any bugs that fly by and land in it, you want to go back and you want to pluck them out before the pour starts to set. Once you've reached that point where you can look at it, it's good, you're happy, then you're done. Now, the most important thing that you're going to have to keep in mind now is that it's going to take 12 hours from when you're finished. Check the time. 12 hours, this stuff is going to kick. It's going to be firm, but it's not going to be cured. So that means you can go back and you can clean the paper up, take the paper, clean around the bar. After 24 hours from the time you're finished, you're good to go. So if you're done at 11 o'clock at night, it's going to be 11 o'clock the following night before it's going to be set. So once that happens, the only thing to do after that is you'll notice that because of the gravity, you're going to have little bumps underneath the table. And if you have access to a sander of any sort, a little rotary sander, or belt sander, a little belt sander, just go underneath gently and just go back and forth, and it'll pop all those bumps off, and you're good to go. That should have cured your problem. Good luck, and let me know how it turns out. Thank you.